Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich, and I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. Well, welcome to today's episode. I'm Becky Sampson. I'm the host of the Divorcing Strong. And today's going to be an exciting episode. This is for people who are going through divorce and want support in regards to going through that process. I want to just introduce you to Ameenah Asante. She's a Transformational Life Coach, psychic intuitive, human design specialist, master level Reiki practitioner, master trainer, dance educator, pregnancy and birth doula, and fitness and wellness professional. She's also a proud mother of two incredible teenagers. Ameenah is originally from East Lansing, Michigan, and attending Florida State University. She attended Florida State University. She moved to Japan in 2002 and happily made Tokyo her home until 2017, where she founded the personal and professional development company, the She Collective, several dance companies, and a dynamic following in the fitness and wellness industry. So over the last decade, she's facilitated trainings and retreats in personal development, health, wellness, dance, and fitness worldwide in countries such as Australia, Austria, Sweden, South Korea, Japan, and in many cities throughout the United States. Ms. Asante holds a bachelor degree in psychology and Japanese. So welcome so much to the show, and thank you so much for being willing to come on today and share your wisdom and your story. You have a divorce story that I always believe that our experiences bring us to the point of doing the things that we do now. So tell people a little bit about yourself and kind of what brought you to this point.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me, Becky. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, so in the midst of that bio that you read, divorce is planted smack dab in the middle of all of that. And so I was married for over 10 years. I met my ex-husband while I lived in Japan and had a good part of my adulthood during that time of marriage. And, often I get asked, like, what brought you back from Japan? And the short answer is that road to divorce, is recognizing that the relationship needed to be over and leaving really quickly with my kiddos when they were still in elementary school, and coming back to the U.S.
Well, I know when we talked in our kind of interview, that type of thing, you said that you didn't want to come back. Like, tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
I did not. Process. Japan was supposed to be my forever home. I loved living there. I loved the culture, the people, all of the things. I'd built a pretty big, fun life for myself there, and I did not want to go home or come back to the U.S. So it was definitely a tricky thing to navigate. And I know that this is likely the experience of many people. Lots of people get married and they leave and live elsewhere. And sometimes, our life challenges, they bring us back to the place where we grew up. And that's exactly what happened for me.
Yeah. And I know that you had also mentioned that it was a pretty difficult time for you when you had gone through that divorce. I know a lot of people listening may also be experiencing that. They might see it coming, or it's an all of a sudden thing. Talk a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So as I said, the marriage was 10 years in length. And, during the full time of the marriage, had just the sinking suspicion that my husband was not being truthful with me, and there's something else that was happening. Lo and behold, around the 10-year mark, that's when I received confirmation that this was true and that he had not been faithful, and that actually he was married to another individual in another country.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And so it was...
How was that for you to find that out?
Yeah. So it was multi-layered.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the biggest surprise for me was not the information itself. It was
Mm-hmm.
my reaction to it. I was very relieved at the end of the day to finally have definitive information after 10 years of this
Mm-hmm.
thinking suspicion that something
Mm-hmm.
else was wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
so once I finally had the information, then I could really sit myself in a seat to move, from this empowered space, right? Versus like the questioning and the gaslighting and doubting myself and that type of thing. So it was very helpful to have the information at the end of the day.
Was that I know that that's something that a lot of people experience when they're going through the divorce. It's kind of like, okay, now it's time to pull the big girl panties up. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
got the information. Now what I'm going to do? What am I going to do? And how did you handle that? I'm like, what was the process that you went through, not only internally but also, what is the business that you had to take care of?
Yeah. So for me, I have been a coach my whole life.
Mm,
And in the moment of receiving the information,
mhm,
my default was, okay, this is a very impactful time for my life and my children's life. And
mhm,
what am I going to do with this moment? Right?
mm,
Like I could fall apart and I have it's well within my rights to completely fall apart.
mhm,
But more importantly, it was like I could feel that there is a greater purpose to this moment in time.
mm,
And what I felt was the purpose of this moment is to be in the space of observation and learning and understanding what it means to know the worst about my husband
right.
and look at him daily, right? And like interact from a place of like compassion and like
Okay,
just a
that's not usually people's response. I know
not at
we
all.
talked about it the other day, and I'm like, "Okay, let's talk more about that," because
Yeah.
people are like, "What? What are you doing?"
Right.
And okay, first of all, let's talk about the observation. How do you I mean, I know you've been a coach, so you probably know the answer, right?
Mhm.
But we're still human. When we're cut, we bleed. So how did you really coach yourself into that, or what was that process of being an observer and then being in the process of observing, seeing him still as a human being?
Yes, yes. So it's a great question, and the answer to that question, I'd actually have to go back 5 years and then to go forward. So just briefly, around the 5-year mark, because of my husband's, loose relationship with the truth over the years, there was a
Mm,
time where he was threatening divorce, halfway
mm,
into our marriage. And, this kind of back and forth kind of scare tactics, or so it felt. And I remember praying to God and
mm,
saying, what am I supposed to do? Like I can't do this anymore. This tension and the arguments out of nowhere. And rather than praying for my marriage, which I had done in all of the years
mm,
prior, I actually decided to, what I call, anchor myself
mm,
to ground myself to my own being, my own self-worth, my own self-love, and
right.
understand my connection to God. And so every time my husband would kind of throw these curveballs at me, that I wasn't so swayed and affected and like the world is ending. Like I was anchored to me, I was anchored to God, I was anchored to truth, I was anchored to love.
Yeah.
And it was really a shift in how I saw myself in
Mhm.
regards to my relationship and in the world. Really, I just felt so clear, so true to who I am. And so in that moment, 10 years, in the marriage and finding out
Right.
finally the definitive truth, here I am anchored to myself, knowing how much I value truth, how much I value what is truly important in the world to me, and that is living, and being an honest, truthful individual. And so I could look at the situation and say, okay, I now have truth,
Yep.
right? What else gets to be true? Right? Who am I at the end of the day in relationship to a person, another human? Do I really get to be the person that preaches love and compassion and all this? But yet here I am handed an opportunity to be compassionate, but yet I'm unable to do that. And so I really got to be with myself and say, okay, what does compassion look like? Try it on. Like, we've been suspecting this for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
This is not a new concept.
Right.
It's just a new moment. And
Yeah.
like, and I think one of the most empowering pieces for me is being able to love myself so much I could be with all my own stuff and know that I'm not perfect. And I also got to be with the narrative of his own life and him growing up. And
Yeah.
like, he absolutely is not perfect. And also I could see how someone with this upbringing would do something like this.
Would
Right?
possibly, yeah, and that's the thing that I think people forget when they're going through divorce is that we all are bringing our past and pain, all kinds of things into it. And I had to go through the same thing too, is to seeing and really keeping in a good space towards him through the divorce, because
Yeah.
it ended up be ruining me. And one thing I really liked what you said is that you grounded yourself. And so if people are finding themselves in a divorce, do what they need to do in order to ground. And I find you to be a very grounding person. That's
I
probably why you're
appreciate
such a good coach.
it.
That was the one word before we even started this show. I was like, what is the thing that about her? She's very grounded. And talk about, I mean, maybe there's one of the things that you can tell people is how did you get grounded, or how could they get grounded? Because divorce takes you all over the place.
Yeah,
But how to stay grounded and how to stay, like you said, look at the whole picture of where they came from, and to see why maybe they're making those decisions. It's less about them or about us than it is about them. A little about that.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I would say that the key to getting grounded starts with a desire to be different and to be better than who you
Mm,
are, what you are in a moment. Like, you have to care, right?
mhm,
You have to care. You have to care about yourself, number one. You have to care about those kiddos if you have them. You have to
mhm.
care about who you are as a human. If those aren't things that are part of your value system, then it's not going to be something that you're going to do easily. And so, what needs to happen in this grounding, in this way to ground yourself, is you simply find out what it is that you want to really embody in your value system. And from this value system, like, identify it, as I mentioned earlier, compassion being important to me,
Mhm.
trust being important to me, love being important to me. I knew at the end of the day that this marriage was not the end of my love life forever, right? I
Right.
knew at the end of the day that I had so much more to give, so much more to do. And so by me identifying my values, I then got to be in integrity with myself.
Yeah, I think that is so you really have to kind of tap into what your values and values and standards are, and know what you're going to stand for, because divorce can really excuse me can really destroy you in that. So how long was your process that you were going through the divorce, because you were in Japan?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the process for divorce didn't start in Japan. Us
Hmm.
leaving, like, from the moment I found out to us leaving Japan, it was about 3 months. It was very, very quick. And us leaving just emergently, I called it. We left and didn't, my husband was out of the country on business, and me and my kiddos, we got plane tickets, and and flew across the country, or across the world, right, to go to the US. So the because we were married in the US, I was able to file for divorce in the US as well. So that was it was a pretty quick turnaround from when the process was initiated. And so, there wasn't too much that my husband was trying to fight me over, because, he had basically given up his privileges from, living overseas and all that. And so it was a lot.
Yeah. And so how did you, I know with children, it's a little bit difficult. How did you navigate that with your kids? Because I know that they're going to be moving to they were born in Japan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And having to come back to the US, like how did they adjust to that? And how did you like navigate that whole process?
Yeah. So for the kiddos, I have always had a very close and transparent relationship with my kids. That's one of my values. It's not something that I had as a child. And so it was very important for me to be very forthcoming and upfront with my kids. And so the moment things started to go south, my kids and our closeness, were like, what's going on? No, really, tell us. And it's not that there was any fighting. There's no like conversations happening, because I had chosen not to tell my ex for months that I knew what was
Right.
happening. Right. I
Right.
chose to keep it, keep it to myself, but they could feel that there was a shift with mom. And so they knew. And so once, after 2 months, and my ex went to, to the other country on business, and I just sat the kids down. I said, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. And for them, they understood, there was no slandering. It was like, this is
Right.
what your dad chose, and this is where he is, even though this is, he's saying something else, this is where he's at. And yeah, just once they knew, and some things happened with my ex, so we needed to leave pretty quickly, because there were some threats that were coming, my
Yeah.
way, and it just wasn't safe, and it was time to go. It's time to
How
go.
important do you think it really is to be really in tune with what, like, the next steps, and having the courage to take those steps, because that's a pretty big leap for you to have to come all the way back
Yeah,
into the United States. Especially, I know you and I had that very similar. Like there were just things like we feel safe in a certain place, but they were like, okay, I know I need to make this decision. And how did you find the courage to do it, and still staying in a good space with your kids and with your own spirit?
yeah. So I will actually, I'll say it like this.
Yeah.
I don't know that me by myself, I would have made the correct choice of leaving.
Mm,
I had gone through so much with him, and I was just really tired. I
yeah.
knew that something different needed to happen, but I just didn't have like fully the bandwidth to initiate and make it happen. And
Hmm.
so it really was my family, my
Yeah.
younger sister, my mother, my aunt, some really tough conversations of like, Ameenah, he has all the power. If you stay in Japan, if you
Yeah.
stay right now, he has all the power. He's going to come back, and he'll just tell you more lies, and it'll just be this cycle. And why don't you just go home? And then that's like no, I don't want to go home.
I
Like,
know. I
yeah,
totally was there too.
okay.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And it's hard because there's just so many emotions you go through,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah,
I think you bring up a really, really great point is that we find the courage
yeah,
by reaching out to our support
yeah,
and having a support team to going, okay, look, I know you don't want to do this. However, this is the thing that you need to do. And sometimes actually, this is a really interesting topic too, because sometimes everybody has an opinion, right? When you're going through
hmm,
a divorce, you should do this, you should do that. How
yeah,
do you like determine, like, how did you make that decision? You just,
yes,
yeah,
yeah. So I knew it was time.
yeah.
He really sealed that fate himself,
Mhm.
when the threats were coming, and He had gone out of his way to actually cancel the lease on the town home that we lived in. Like, and this was like right around Christmas. It's like,
There you go.
yeah, like, oh, okay, so you
Okay.
want me and your
Or
children to be homeless.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, take the children to my sister's house and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it was egregious. And so with all that was happening, it just made it so much easier to just disappear and to go. And the
Yeah.
kids were happy to have an adventure going to America
Mm.
and eventually starting American school. Even though they loved Japan, they loved their dad. Their dad was a good dad for the most part. Just it was time. It was absolutely time. And I wouldn't have made those choices without family.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know one of the things and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you come on this show is because you help people in relationships,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And let's talk a little bit about the relationship that we have with ourselves when we're going through something like this. And then how do we stay in a good space towards the relationship now with our soon to be former?
Yeah, so first and foremost, as I was speaking about earlier, is those values, right?
Mhm.
I think a lot of times we get swayed because we're not clear, right? We're
Right.
not clear, like, when you have a value such as integrity and integrity to yourself, you're not
Mhm.
going to blur the lines on things. You're
Right.
not going to sacrifice your own mental health, your own livelihood. You're going to make choices that are congruent with how you see yourself. And when it comes to that other person, there's something to be said about before all of the things happened, and there were red flags even before I said I do.
Yeah,
And
isn't that true? We all see that.
but I'll
I mean,
keep
it's funny because you can look back and go, "Oh, that's right." However,
right,
I'm a real big believer that, every experience that we have is happening for us, not to us.
totally, totally.
And I really feel that I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't regret any of the difficulties because it's
Not
made
at
me who
all.
I am today. And so that helps with going through that process. And I know when you work with people, it sounds to me that you help them get clear with those values and get clear with, what are my boundaries? What am I willing to deal with? And what am I not willing to deal with? Because I know for me, when I was going through my first divorce, I don't think I would have made half of the decisions if I didn't have the support behind me going, no, 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 no. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I mean, we fall into old habits and we fall to unhealthy things because our brain is not, we're under, we're under flight and fight, you know? So talk a little bit about how you'd work with somebody going through that and what's the process that you take them through?
Yeah, so I work with people in every iteration of their
Right.
relationships. And, there's joy in the beginning and all the things. And
Hmm.
regardless of where you are in your relationship, there's so much value in the coaching work.
Yeah,
And to
I
to
agree with that.
start is just identifying exactly where you're at, right?
Hmm.
And where have you been
Hmm.
and where do you wanna go?
Yeah.
And having these 3 points, like location points, right? You can actually identify, "This is where I am. This is what hurts. This is the thing that is most painful. This is the history that we shared, and this is where I came from, and I don't wanna live here anymore." Right? I
Right.
wanna be free from this. Coaching doesn't work for people that are committed to being stuck,
Right.
right? For
I know as
people
a
that
coach, we never wanna work with someone that's not coachable, right? Like
correct.
they're like,
And
I'm just so committed to being the way that I'm at." I'm like, "Are you
yeah,
serious?"
and it doesn't have anything to do with like, "Oh, there's this time limit." Like,
Right.
we're still talking about the same thing months later.
Yeah,
That's expected,
it's a
right?
process.
However, if it's consistent, I don't want to change, it's just best if you allow yourself to grieve.
Yeah.
Divorce is a grieving process.
Mm-hmm.
Allow yourself the time and space to grieve, and then maybe a couple years down the line or a couple months down the line, coaching could support you. But what that looks like to work with individuals is when you have that forward location of where you want to go, it is so crystal clear to define and to decipher all of the behaviors and all of the things that are happening in your world that are not working. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, one of the things that for me wasn't working in my separation and then divorce
Mm-hmm.
was the me allowing myself to have voice to voice communication with my ex
Mm.
because of a decade long history of storytelling and manipulation.
Right.
And so I know that I don't have the energy to play the games. And so I told him, you can send an email, you can text, you can leave a voice note. That's fine. But I
Mm-hmm.
can't have this open boundary where I'm just talking to you over the phone. Right. And so really
So
identify.
glad, by the way, I'm so glad you brought that up because so many people, that is one of the things that I see people get stuck in is that they have that open communication and then they stay stuck.
Yes, that's
Especially,
really stay
so it's
stuck.
better to have a boundary that way. So whether it's through texting, through email, I remember my first divorce, it got to the point where it was just an email. And one of
Mhm.
my boundaries is that I don't even read that email unless I'm on the phone with my girlfriend.
Yeah,
So she helps me decipher it so that I wasn't just left alone
so
to be
good.
able to go, okay, that's not healthy. That's not right. That, you know what I mean? Or
Yes,
that there may be some truth to that, Becky,
yeah,
so having boundaries around that, I really appreciate you saying that because
yeah.
if you find yourself stuck, it might be because you needed a little bit more boundaries around that
Mhm, absolutely. And one
communication.
other thing that I did that was so critical for me was the moment we had flown to Michigan and arrived at my mother's house. My kids, were jet lagged, they fell asleep,
Mm,
and I went into the bathroom and I recorded a video. I
mm,
recorded a 30-minute video just of the raw realness of the fact that of everything that had just happened in the last 3 months, and the fact that I am now back in my hometown, and my kids have gone through all of this, just really laying it all out there. And the video itself was so important because I have proof of what has occurred in my world, and if there were any feelings, which there weren't, thank God, but if there were any feelings like, "Okay, maybe we can figure it out. Maybe that we
yeah,
can."
it was a
Yeah,
reminder.
it's the reminder, but also what I really used the video for was I uploaded it to YouTube and made it an
Mhm.
unlisted video, and I sent this to, let's say, 30 of my closest people in my world. So they had the information of what had happened,
Mhm.
and I didn't have to keep on explaining what happened, right?
Oh, I
Everybody was
love that
level
idea.
set. Yes, of this is what happened. And I made an update video like a month later, just, everything like I'm much more vibrant and I'm hopeful, but like
Yeah.
so I don't have to keep on picking up the phone or answering texts to say this is what's going on.
Oh, Amina, I'm a documenter.
Yeah.
I did something very similar with my this last divorce is that same thing. As soon as that day of separation, I went and recorded because I
Yeah.
wanted to capture that moment. But what I love that you did is that you sent it out to your people so that you wouldn't have to regurgitate that over and
Yes.
over and over again. And it tells me that there's a lot of people that love you and care about you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And secondly, it held you to some standard of accountability, right?
Mhm.
Too,
Yeah,
because it's like,
definitely.
hey, if I ever think about going back, and I'm not saying that that we can't go back and repair things and things like that. However, it documents a lot of what you're going through, and it also shows the support that you need from your people, that
Mhm.
I call them your tribe.
Yes.
Who are the people that everyone needs a tribe, and it's not just one person. We need several people to help us go through, because there are people that are going to tap out during this process because it's a really, really heavy process. But then to also do a second video and multiple videos on a private thing that you can send out to them so that they have, you don't have to tell the same story 10 times. I love that.
Yes. Yes.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I know we're kind of getting to the very end of it. So tell us a little bit, just briefly, like what you do for people now. We've talked a little bit about it, but keeping that, well, first of all, I'm going to recap a little few things that you talked about, is that keeping that observation, while you're going through the divorce, being objective and seeing that other person as still a person. That is so important to me.
Yes.
Like, that was such a game changer for me as well. And you helping people do that, also get clear with their boundaries and where that communication, where you can put that communication in place to help you be strong through that. And then the other thing I heard is that to figure out what your values and standards are. Who are you going to be from this moment on, regardless of what you've experienced? Who are you going to be right now? And what are you going to create going forward? Did I recap that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We
Yes.
people in a lot of different relationships. So this is just one area.
Mhm.
As you've been through it, I love that you can give them a little bit more perspective with that. And when people work with you, is that more of a one-on-one, or do you do group coaching? What is
So
your
I do everything in between. So you can do private coaching. I have group coaching cohorts for people that are wanting to grow their relationships and how they show up. For people that are wanting to really tap into their best existence in every iteration of their life, in every part of their life. And so, yeah, it just depends on the needs and the wants of the individual. I do retreats. I love it all.
I love it. And what I love most about you is just your energy of
Mm.
groundedness. And that's what people need when they're going through divorce.
Agreed.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just having somebody there to listen and say, you're going to be okay.
Mhm.
There is life after divorce, and you've clearly shown that there's life after divorce, and you're thriving and you're helping people, and you're taking your own life experience and helping people relate and connect better in relationships, because
Yes,
it
it's very
is an
important.
absolute disconnect when we go through the divorce and then having to reconnect with ourselves, redefining ourselves, and then recreating ourselves so that we can move into this next chapter of our life. So,
Agreed.
I
Agreed.
love it. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and being able to share your experience. And I'll go ahead and put your contact information if they want to reach out to you
Wonderful.
and work with you. And thank you so much for everything that you do.
You're so
I
welcome, Becky. It's a great podcast. It's a wonderful mission that you have to
Yeah,
support people through this process. So
yeah, it's not easy,
it
but
isn't.
however, I don't like that word, but however, they really can come through
Yes.
divorcing strong. And I truly believe that it takes all of those aspects of becoming strong in physical, spiritual, emotional, and financial, because
Mhm.
that's a big part of what we're going to be covering in this podcast is how to really come through it financially. Because I can't tell you how many people come up to me and go, I wish I knew you, Becky, when I was going through. I'm like, you don't know what you don't know, honey. And
Correct.
I'm here to do the best I can to provide this information and resources so that you can come through your divorce strong. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on our show. And thank you everyone for joining in today or tuning in today. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Stay strong.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.